Thank you, Meryl. Thank you, Rambling House. Thank you for all of you for coming out today. So the theme is moms, and if there was ever a thing that I was uniquely unqualified to speak about, it would be moms, because I don't like children. Actually, I didn't even like kids when I was a kid. Like, I decided when I was 7 years old that I was never having children. So, grew up in Alabama, and a popular vacation spot was in Tennessee called Dollywood. It's kind of like, it's a theme park, kind of like a Kings Island, except it's owned by Dolly Parton. And yes, it is every bit as redneck as you think it is. So when I was 7, my parents took me on a family vacation there. And being 7, I was like, too short to ride any of the adult rides, but I thought I was way too cool to ride the kiddie rides. So I was hopping back and forth between the parks. And kids are notoriously impatient, right? So there was a huge line for the Ferris wheel, which I desperately wanted to ride, but I didn't want to wait in a line for the long adult Ferris wheel, so I opted for the kiddie Ferris wheel. That was a mistake. So all the baskets on the Ferris wheel were filled up with other kids. They just started throwing us together, like with other kids, indiscriminately. Didn't matter if we knew each other. So they throw me in this basket with this boy who looks to be about 5 years old. And he was totally fine the whole time. I'm getting seated in the basket and, like, you know, buckling my seatbelt. But the minute it started going, he starts screaming bloody murder. He's literally like looking around going, ah, 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 ah. And I mean, keep in mind, this is the kiddie Ferris wheel, so it's going all of 2 miles per hour. It's going up maybe 30 feet in the air. But this kid is having a full-on meltdown. Like, he looks like he's gonna pass out. Meanwhile, I'm over here, like, I've got my hands over my ears, like, trying to pass a hint, you know, like, hey, dude, like, you're kind of loud, can you shut up, you know? And he's just not taking the bait. He does not get it. He's still, the entire time. And I'm trying to scoot as far away from him as I can in this enclosed space. Then we get to the apex of the Ferris wheel, and his screaming gets louder. And so finally I have to take matters into my own hands. I reach over and I grab his leg and I say, hey, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. You're okay. And then he stops screaming. He stops screaming and he turns to me. And that's when he says, right in my face, like I'm the spawn of Satan, like screaming louder than he was before. And that's when I lose my shit. I like throw open my seatbelt and I stand up in the cage and I'm yelling, let me out, let me out! Like, I gotta get out of there. Meanwhile, the ride conductor is coming over the intercom going, excuse me, if you would just remain seated for the duration of the ride. Yeah, that shit ain't happening. I'm in here with a crazy person. So eventually we make one full circle and they open the door and I book it out of there. Like, I'm done. And my parents didn't see the commotion that was on the ride because they were like a little too far out of earshot. All they know is I am barreling straight toward them, and I get to my mom and I like wrap myself around her thigh, you know, in that way that little kids do. And I'm like crying into her shorts, like it looks like she wet herself, you know, like this. And she's like, honey, what's wrong? Because, I mean, I've been begging to ride the adult roller coasters this whole time, so they knew I wasn't scared. And I'm like, snot's dripping off my face, and that's when I look up and I tell her, I'm never having kids. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, you know, you just caught the kid on a bad day. They're not all that bad. That was just one really neurotic 5-year-old. You can't fault them all for that. Oh, no. Then there was this time when I was 15 and my mother decided to sign me up to babysit the little girl next door who was like 6. And I was livid. I was like, Mother, you put me in charge of another human life? Me? Like, do you realize that if she sticks a fork in a light socket on my watch, I'm going to rot in prison? Not a good idea. But she's like, yeah, I already told the neighbors you'd do it. They're not going to cancel their plans. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So I didn't have a choice. And everything was going okay until we're watching SpongeBob and she says, "I'm hungry." Now, her parents were like the kind of, you know, like hippie types that'll let their kids eat like literally whatever they want. I mean, she could have had like, you know, M&Ms for dinner and it would have been just peachy with them. But so I'm like, "Okay, what do you want for dinner?" And she says, "Sandwich." Okay, innocuous enough, I can handle that, you know. So I get out the plate, put some bread on it. I said, "All right, what do you want on your sandwich?" She says, "Mayonnaise." So I put some mayonnaise on there. "Okay, what else do you want in your sandwich?" "Mayonnaise." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll put some more mayonnaise on there." So I'm like, "Okay, what else do you want on your sandwich?" And she's getting pissy with me. She says, "Mayonnaise." And I'm like, "Look, kid," and I show her, like, "Already got the mayonnaise on there. What else do you want on this sandwich?" "More mayonnaise." I don't like being yelled at. So that's when I get smart. I was like, "All right." Into the mayonnaise jar, it's one of those squeeze tubes, and I say, "You can eat as much mayonnaise as you want. You can put as much mayonnaise as you want on this sandwich, but you have to eat all of it." And I'm thinking, there's no way she's going to go for that. But she's like, "Okay, whatever." So she takes the squeeze tube, and I shit you not, empties like half of the squeeze tube of mayonnaise onto the sandwich. Like it is like coming out the sides, it's turning the bread soggy. I mean, like she tried to pick it up and it's like running down her hands, it's like on her wrist, like there was like one trail that went all the way to her elbow. And like she would have to eat it with a spoon. And I'm sitting there thinking, dear God, she's not gonna eat that. Not only did she eat the sandwich, she actually, because it was like falling apart, because that's what like fully stuffed mayonnaise sandwiches do, they fall apart, she like sticks her face in the plate and laps it up like a dog. Meanwhile, I have a really weak stomach, right? So I'm trying like not to throw up in my mouth. And so I'm like, oh dear God, what have I done? She's gonna eat this entire mayonnaise sandwich, she's gonna throw it up, and then I'm gonna have to clean up her vomit, which is a bad idea because then I'm gonna start vomiting because hello, weak stomach. And then her parents are gonna come home and she's gonna be like, oh, I'm so sick. Oh, why are you sick? Because she made me eat a mayonnaise sandwich. And then they're gonna tell my mom what a terrible babysitter I am, and then I'm gonna have to say, see, told you so. You shouldn't put me in charge of another human life. Told you. Mm-hmm. So I asked her, like, how was your sandwich? And I'm thinking she's going to barf any minute. But she says, that was the best sandwich ever! My parents never let me eat just mayonnaise sandwiches. You're the best babysitter ever! So, at least for the duration that I was there, she did not throw up. Thank goodness. So I decided I didn't want kids when I was 7. Got reiterated pretty well when I was 15. So you're probably wondering where I'm at now. Well, I've since learned that not all children scream on Ferris wheels, and not all children have dietary choices that make me never want to look at food again. But, you know, I gotta hand it to my 7-year-old self. I'm still never gonna have kids. So some things never change, but maybe I can be that cool aunt who goes to the theme park and rides all the roller coasters, and maybe I'll let the kid eat whatever they want when I babysit.